Hey y'all, I'm Mike, the RV inspector and technician,
And I'm Elizabeth. I run our business.
and welcome to the Cozy Camper Podcast.
Hopefully
But hey, before we get too far into it, hey Don and Deanna, how are y'all?
We're doing great.
We're good.
Y'all are the team behind the Kool RV system.
That's us.
And maybe, I guess, for those, if anybody's listening, what, in a nutshell, what is the Kool RV?
Yeah, so the system is designed, and maybe a little backstory here to start with. We were up in Montana, and we needed we did not have our Starlink yet. We were working off cell service, and Deanna has her own consulting company separate from Kool RV as well. And we needed cell service in the place we were at, beautiful on a river, no cell service, and we had to move. And in the process of that moving, I was that idiot that ran my front air conditioner into a low overpass, gently, but enough to crunch it. And as I was taking pictures, I noticed that we were missing the part that connects the cold air from the AC into the ducting. And I just thought that was an oversight at the RV manufacturer on our old rig. And when I contacted my dealer to get the part, they informed me that no, that's how they were all built. And I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And so, over the course of a little bit of time there, I chewed on that and figured out a way. And I literally grabbed some cardboard and some duct tape and some HVAC ducting. And I put that connection in and saw a huge increase in the cooling efficiency of our ACs as a result. And so really what our product is designed to do is provide that direct connection so that the air flows directly into your ducts. It eliminates the pressurization that occurs in the plenum, the swirling and buffeting that occurs in the plenum, and helps to keep your rig cooler and quieter.
And it does. We met y'all at the Austin RV show, I think a year or 2 years ago, and you had like your half plenum where it's like cut in half, and you were showing me. And we teach RV owner education. I just did a class a couple of weeks ago, and some RVs have like the whatever, I forget what they're called, they're built in kind of with a better plenum, but most have exactly what you're describing, where there's like a piece of like almost felt that separates the hot and cold air, or there's no silver tape. And so I do the RV owner education, and it's like most of your RV air conditioners are broken from the factory, right? And you just don't know it. Like, they're doing what they can do, which is change air at 20 degrees, but it's all getting lost in that plenum. It's leaking back in. And so the picture that I show is okay, better, and best. And it's okay, whatever comes from the factory, as long as there actually is a plenum. Better is to use some silver tape and close it up, and best is to actually to put a Kool RV in there that actually sends the cold air where it's supposed to go. And what's wild about it is that people, when I show them that, the question is, well, why don't they just build it that way? Why doesn't it just come from the factory that way? And it's like, that's a great question. Imagine building your house without a plenum for your it's your heat handler.
And the origin really comes from residential and commercial HVAC, where a plenum is very useful for equalizing the pressure going out to numerous different ducts throughout your house. But in an RV, the most you're going to have is two. And so you really don't need a plenum to be able to equalize pressure going equally throughout a dozen different ducts running off of that AC. And so that really simplifies it. And then the science behind it really comes down to fluid mechanics. And the fact that what we're doing is we're taking air out of a small opening in the bottom of the AC, putting it into a big box, and then trying to fit it into two smaller openings on either side of that. And you've got 90-degree angles in there. You've got the pressurization that has to occur. And so our product, what it solves for is it eliminates that extra pressurization that has to occur. It eliminates the excess time that the air spends trying to find its way out. So at the vents, we get cooler air as a result of that. And it's not that we're cooling the air any more than it was. We're just allowing it to stay cooler as it flows through the system. And then we're allowing, in most cases, more airflow to flow through. And then by eliminating the buffeting up there, it also quiets it. On this new rig that we just got, we have some Furion ACs on there, and I used a decibel meter to test our before and after, and it was 10.5 decibels quieter, which is a 50% reduction on the decibel scale. So it was a significant, noticeable reduction.
It absolutely is. When you say something like 10 decibels, it's like hard to quantify. Like, that's literally quantifying it. But for the average person, it's like, oh, I don't know, I guess it's quieter. Because we did the same test in one of our videos that we made in one of the reviews, and we did the same thing. We had I always butcher this word, the anemometer, right? Where that's it. Yes. And we measured like the what was coming out. We measured the air. We're like, okay, well, there's more airspeed coming out. The delta T is greater, and it's quieter. Yeah. And we've done quite a few where we have installed them for customers, but like, you don't really need a technician to install most of them. Yep. Which is great. That's what I kind of tell people. I'm like, hey, it's typically pretty inexpensive and it's pretty user friendly to install, which is great. Where some other products, you're taking bolts out, and I've done those too, and those are a pain to get done. But these air conditioners, I don't know if you can hear it. We have one of the new. It's a Furion Chill Cube, which is supposed to be quieter. And it is, but you can still hear it. Yep. And I wish I had them. This is like my desk space right here. And I bought some noise canceling headphones. And this is supposed to be the quiet one. And I turned them on the first day I got it. And it was like,
yeah,
that's nice. You feel like you're in a pressurized environment. And the only thing that made our old RV tolerable, because the AC was right here and it was screaming all day, was putting the Kool RV in and getting it to settle down. And that's sort of the intangible part where you don't really know how much of a difference it makes if you can just shut that thing up a little bit so that drone goes away. Because I think y'all spend a lot of time in like Arizona, right? We're in Texas. Those things are on all day, every day. You never get a break from it. And just getting a little relief from that kind of goes a long way. As you've been rolling this out, what has the reaction been like from the clients? Has anybody from the industry approached you and saying, hey, let's throw these in at the OEM level? How does that stuff work for y'all?
We're having some of those conversations. It's difficult. And when we talk about things coming from the factory, I think one of the best examples I can give is your RV mattress. RV mattresses, it's a mattress, but you're not going to want to sleep on it, right? And one of the first things you do when you buy a rig is you put in your own mattress. To get that working the way you want it. And so it's been a slow process for us in terms of working with manufacturers. And we had one particular air conditioning manufacturer we were in discussions with, and they went through a reorganization, and that entire team moved on. And so, you end up starting from scratch all over again. But our customer response, I think, is part of what drives the curiosity of the manufacturers on our product. And so, we get some questions there, but I think it's hard for people to change when it comes to those things. And so I think they're comfortable at this point, a lot of them, with their customers buying their aftermarket parts. And, it's fairly common. People, it's not uncommon to upgrade your suspension, some of your electronics. There are lots of, you put your solar in, you're going to customize your rig to yourself. So we get, a lot of particularly warm. So Texas is by far our biggest client, but we've sold, I believe, in all 50 states now. Possibly not Hawaii. I'm not positive. I'd have to look Hawaii up. But even up in Alaska, where I'm from, we've sold numerous up there because people just recognize the benefit. And part of that benefit comes from, with that improved efficiency, you don't have to use your air conditioner as much, or you don't have to use as many. And so for us out here in Phoenix, we have 3 air conditioners on this rig. We really only run 2. And if we do get into an evening where it's warmer, we'll run the one in the back and stay cool that way. And unless it's, if it's not a super hot day where we absolutely have to have both on, we'll run the one in the bedroom during the day. So we really don't even have to hear it at all, because we can stay in a completely separate room from where it's running, and it still cools the entire rig down.
And that was another thing from one of the manufacturers. They said that it was better for them to install a third air conditioner for their sales. And that's, I mean, we could have saved them thousands of dollars, rather than just doing that and installing the Kool RV. But the customers aren't educated yet, and they don't understand how it works. So that's, what we're trying to do.
Yeah. But the great thing for us is word of mouth. We have literally tens of thousands of customers out there now. We're just coming up in a couple months here on our 2-year anniversary. And we have tens of thousands of these on the road. And we have about a 98% success rate. And I can walk you through that real quick. We get about 6% of our product gets returned. And a third of that gets returned because people buy the wrong system. They think they have a Dometic when they have a Coleman, or they think they have a Dometic Brisk when they have a Dometic Penguin. And so we go through that and we exchange those out for those customers. Another third are typically buying them thinking that it'll work no matter what, but they don't have ducts in their ceilings, and ours is specifically designed to connect the AC to the ducting, so they'll return those and refund their money there. And then we get about a 2% customer base that they don't notice an improvement, and we're still working through that. We're actually working on a potential improvement to our systems that would hopefully take care of that last 2% and make this a solid success for them as well. But I think most people would agree that if you can come out with a product that's relatively generic across all manufacturers and have a 98% success rate, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I agree, and that's been as we've worked through it as an installer and a retailer of them. We've had the same sort of thing. What we've had happen a couple times is maybe somebody says, "Well, some people will say, well, I really miss the dump mode, where the air shower," and I'll say, "Well, okay, I hear you. Go put it in your bedroom, and take it out of the living room, put it in the bedroom," and then they'll call me back and say, "Oh, this thing was amazing. Yeah, you're right. Like I really like having the dump mode here, but then it made my bedroom quieter, and now I don't necessarily need to run one or the other as much because it's more efficient." So sometimes there's a little trial and error that's involved, has been my experience, but I've never had anyone. I had one person, they had 3 ACs, they put them on all 3 of them, and they bought one. They said, "This is great." And they bought a second one, and they said, "Let's finish up and do the third one." But I agree with you that the whole 3 air conditioner thing should be avoided wherever possible, because that's a lot of amps.
Yep.
And especially if you're in Arizona, and if there's 10 motorhomes and they're all running 3 air conditioners, now we're starting to wreak havoc on the utility side. We're going to start tripping breakers at pedestals, and your RV really becomes like a 30 amp RV after all of your air conditioners are on, right? So there's definitely a counter argument to having just 3 air conditioners at all. This one has 2, and that's fine. I don't personally ever want to own more than that. And the other part, and you touched on it, was when we talk to the public, there's really, to draw a parallel, there's really not a counter argument to getting an RV inspection before you buy, right? Like you may choose not to get one because you don't want one, but from a consumer standpoint, it's like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Okay, sweet. The industry does not share that perspective, just like they don't really share the perspective that working with a mobile tech is a great idea. And like, it's the same thing with y'all, right? Like if you go to the public, you're like, "Hey, sweet, throw this thing in the ceiling. It's going to make your air conditioner better." The public is like, "Oh, sweet, cool." The manufacturer is like, "Oh, well, it's a selling point for us to put on the silly third air conditioner that people don't really need instead of this, $80, which I'm sure if you sold it at scale would be even cheaper, periphery to put in there just because the public doesn't know." And I assume positive intent. I don't think there's like an evil AI that's in control of Elkhart making decisions that are bad for the community, but it almost feels like the Elkhart sometimes is at odds with its population when you have a simple solution like that can serve so many people, but it's not part of their plan or they don't want to get into it yet. I think if you run this experiment, just like with inspections, if the Kool RV runs this experiment long enough, eventually there's going to be a greater adoption of these sorts of things and maybe more even competition. But it's like, you're sitting here telling me, "Well, hey, I can make your air conditioner better." Like, how do I? Well, I want to be hot, so your product is bad. Like, what's the counter argument? There really is not one. Hey, I'm a fireman. I know how to put your house fire out, but I won't.
Right.
Like, what's the counter argument?
A lot of people will have, they have the impression that the dump is the best option for them for cooling their rig. And the reality is that it isn't, and it isn't for a very simple reason. And that is that your warm air intake is sitting right next to your dump.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason that that air directly under your air conditioner is so incredibly cold is because your air conditioner is just recycling air that it's already cooled. And it's
Right.
why if you step back a couple feet from that, your rig is still hot.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people just think, well, that's just because of the exterior and it has to be that way. When the reality is you would never put your warm air intake and your cold air supply in your house right next to each other. You're going to stick your warm air return as far away from your cold air as you possibly can and get that air circulating through your house. And that's really what we're doing with our system, is pushing that air out so that the warmest air is being cooled most effectively, and that cool air is going out, and it's going out at a colder temp and in greater volumes than what people are used to. And we've seen to the volume instance. We were in a campground, and we had the back of our old rig we had wrapped with the company info, and somebody came over and said, "Hey, I've been waiting for your GE to come out, and I happen to have one with me." And I had one of our prototypes for our production, and said, "Well, let's go over." And he asked if I'd help him install it. We put it in, and I felt really bad for the brand new rig that he had, and we turned it on, and it was like a bomb went off inside of his rig because there was so much sawdust that had been sitting in his ducts that wasn't getting blown out before, and now with the improved airflow, it was just sawdust everywhere. And they had, poor folks had to vacuum it out. But on the flip side, it proved it worked a lot better than what they'd had up to that point.
We saw that once too, where because I in the past, right now I'm doing more inspections and repairs, but when I was personally doing more RV repairs, I kept a couple like under the back seat of my truck, and we'd resell them. Like, hey, I'm here working anyway. Do you want me to try and put this thing in the ceiling? We had that happen a couple times where you throw it in there and then it blows out like a bomb, and you're like, well,
Yep.
I guess it's better. Like, I'll help you clean it up.
No testing needed.
Yeah, you feel bad because you just totally, and then they're shocked at how much sawdust is left over. And before we even get to the conversation about optimizing the air conditioner, putting in the Kool RV, I don't know how many air conditioners I've gone to where somebody will call me and say, well, hey, it's really not performing, and then I get there and it's literally just the coils are just choked with sawdust.
Yeah.
Right? They're just like from the factory, especially the COVID era builds, they're just choked with sawdust. And it's like, all right, well, let's get that out of there. And then we can install the Kool RV. And then the Kool RV would get a double bump because they would attribute the improvement to the Kool RV when, that did help, but also just getting like, pieces of circular sawdust like this big out of the ducts, because they'll drill it, right? And then they just shove the hole back into the duct and it sits there.
Well, and we've seen wire coiled up. We had a customer that purchased one of our systems, and I think they sent us a note or something.
Mm-hmm.
And when their rig was built, they had literally rolled up the wire rather than splicing it and shoved it in to completely close off a duct. And then to your point around maintenance, a lot of folks don't understand that you really do need to have your ACs maintained and cleaned on a regular basis so that they maintain their efficiency and their cooling efficiency just through regular maintenance.
We're getting ready to do a more robust job of some RV owner education stuff. And there's a lot of people out there that teach how to fix your RVs. And our stance is just how to operate your RV correctly. But I don't want you diagnosing, converters and stuff. Let's just tell you how it's supposed to work. And one of those things is like, hey, your air conditioner can only do this, and it can only do that if it's clean, and you haven't shoved shopping bags into your vents in your bathroom because it got too cold. None of that stuff works. And then I had somebody reach out to me a couple of weeks ago. It was an RV renovator, and they sent me a picture. The sewer vent, the air admittance that goes up onto the roof, they drilled it straight through the air conditioning duct.
Oh, geez.
So it was, it went through the bathroom and went straight through it out onto the roof, which is obviously going to make the AC less efficient. But also when cold air and warm air are mixing in places they're not supposed to be, like to your point about, having these return, that's when you start to get things grow in your ducts and in your ceiling. And if you run that experiment long enough, you might see mushrooms grow through your ceiling.
Yes, right? I've seen those pictures too.
Yeah, it's horrifying, and it does happen, and it comes that way straight from the factory. When I do an inspection, I temperature probe or I'll thermal camera every vent, and it's like, well, I can see in the ceiling the duct run stops here. Well, why? right? Like, why does it stop there? Is it open to the attic, or is something blocking it?
Yep.
It's before we even put a Kool RV into the system, like sometimes you have to unpack all of that stuff. And so we have a video. I think it's releasing today. Today's the 14th, and it's one where it's like, hey, let's get the most out of your RVAC. Number one is clean it. Number two is upgrade it. And then after that, all it can do is change air at 20 degrees. And I think that's the just getting these things to work is a big hurdle. And people in Texas and Arizona, I did inspections last summer in Arizona. It was 110 degrees every day. I will never do that again for as long as I'm alive.
Okay.
And we made a lot of money because we're the only ones in town. But and people told me, they're like, hey, I don't think the AC works. And I'm like, no, the AC is doing what it can do. The walls are made out of paper.
Yep.
And all you can do, like, we can upgrade it, we can get a little bit more out of it, but at the end of the day, this is what they are. So systems like y'all's are great. I heard you say that you had, and I wanted to bring this up because I'm interested now. You told me that you were on a trip in your other RV, and then I heard you say that that other RV got totaled. What happened to that RV?
Well, so that's an interesting one, and there's actually a product out there for folks that would have kept this from happening for us. We were on our way to our dealer to get our rig serviced so that we could drive up to Alaska. We needed to get the bearings checked out and repacked and everything, make sure that we were well squared away. And on our way to the dealer, one of the bearings failed, and the wheel came off and damaged the lower skirt, which was easy to replace cosmetically, but more importantly, it bent the frame. It was a 45-foot fifth wheel two axle, and all of that pressure ended up bending the frame, and it was not repairable, and so that was a total loss on a 3-year-old rig that was working exactly the way we wanted it to. Life was good, and we had to start over again, unfortunately. But
that's one of those creepy things where even on the most thorough inspection, like, we're not taking axles apart. We're not looking at wheel bearings. That exceeds the scope. And this came up the other day. Somebody asked me, well, hey, would you recommend when you buy a new RV to just pay and have the axles repacked and examined? And I'm like, ooh, that's a good question, because you shouldn't need it. But there's anecdotal evidence that says, like your story, right? You're not the only one. And then I was in a Facebook group, one of like the specific brand Facebook groups. They said, hey, I've owned it for 6 months. I decided to repack the bearings. We haven't really moved it yet. I took it off, and there's basically no grease in here. Yeah. And, thankfully they caught it. They repacked it themselves. Everything's fine. But like, that's a little spooky, because like, no inspection is going to catch that. Not mine, not the PDI. I heard you say that you were having it redone. So that tells me, like, you're someone that maintains an RV well. And it's like, you don't really know, and now your RV's broken.
Right. Yeah. Well, and for folks out there, there is actually a product. I spoke to one of the owners, and unfortunately he passed here recently. But there's a product out there called HubSaver, and their website's hubsaver.com. And most folks don't realize that if you have a bearing failure, the only thing holding your wheel onto the axle is the bearing. And if that bearing fails, that wheel slips right over the crown nut and right off. And there are actually a couple hundred people a year that get killed by trailer tires coming off and flying down the road. And so their product goes on there. It's basically like a really large washer, so that if the bearing does fail, there's that washer's there to keep that wheel from going over the top of the crown nut and coming off. That's
smart. I should look into that a little more. I was telling you guys, I'm at full tilt for products, but that's actually a really good one, so I might have to look into it. But what I have done is just, I will, when we stop for gas, I have my laser thermometer, and I will take a temperature reading, and as long as they're close, but and they're going to be 150 degrees or more, depending on what you've been doing. And it's like, if you get one that's 300 degrees, you're like, all right, something's going on with that one, that it's much higher than the rest. But John Q RV owner doesn't I'm a technician, and I work on these things, so I know you're using words like fluid dynamics, which is, I was shocked. I have no experience with that. But the John Q RVer doesn't know that.
Yeah.
They don't know that that's a thing. They don't know that you can upgrade your air conditioner. That's where educating the public at scale comes in, and it's frustrating to me sometimes because, you know, and let's use Kool RV as an example. We've made Kool RV videos before. We've talked about how great they are. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And like we had one video, I think it did 100 or 200,000 views. We did quite a few sales from it. And in full disclosure, anybody who's listening, I'm an affiliate partner. I get commissioned if I sell Kool RV. But, you know, you almost get disheartened because you're like, oh, I did 300,000 views. And then the next day someone is on like a forum and they're like, oh, my RV air conditioner sucks. Is there anything I can do to fix it? And you're like, why weren't you one of the 300,000 people that saw this video? I put it out there, you know? And, you know, it's like RV inspections. This month we did 1.5 million views on just on Facebook, 1.6 million. And I'm like, sweet. And then I'll see in the comments somewhere like, I didn't know I could get an RV inspection and I bought this thing and it's a wreck. And you're like, oh God, how many times do I got to do this? You feel like you're pushing the boulder up the hill, right? Where, you know, so now as we were talking about this, I'm like, well, that's going to be a great subject for a video where I'll talk about bearing maintenance and how to test it when you're on the road. And I'll get 1 million views. And then the other 19 million RVers won't see it. And they will be at risk of crashing their trailer because their bearings weren't packed or they weren't packed properly, or it gets frustrating, guys.
Yeah,
only you know, because then you're like you know, you're driving down the road. You said your RV was wrapped. That's a great start, but then you're like, I have one single RV, you know, and push that out there. But you guys, I don't know why I thought y'all had a motorhome before, but you're in a new. I think you told me a Nitro
XLR fifth wheel. Yeah, we put our motorcycle and bikes in the back and have some fun.
And I assume that there's Kool RVs installed in all 3 air conditioners.
Well, we left one out because since we had Coleman in our last and we have Furion in this one, and we need to film she wants to film me installing this last one so we can do an updated install video. We made some improvements and discoveries with the Furion that make them a lot easier to install now. So we'll show that.
Wasn't there, I'm trying to remember, there was one brand where you had to take out like one bolt to install it?
Well, the Coleman Mach series, which is what we had on our old rig, you took the plastic cover off, you snapped our AC adapter in, taped the vent adapters in place, put the plastic cover back on, and you're done. It's a 10-minute, if even, job getting those in. It's very, very easy to do. And, you know, a lot of that had to do with that's what we owned. That was our first product. And that's the problem I was solving for. And then Deanna running the company, needed the whole product array and getting those for everybody else out there.
Yeah, not everybody is blessed to have, we won't say their names. Some people are cursed with a specific brand of air conditioner, and I won't shame them, but they know who they are. I've made videos about them before. Some people are cursed with those, and you know what's funny is people will say like, "Hey, my air conditioner's doing this. Like, what can I do?" I'm like, "Get a new one." There's this brand where I say just yank it out, and even people will call me and they'll say, "Hey, I need a new fan motor or something," and I'll go up there and be like, "Okay, I can put a new fan motor in there for you, and I make the same either way. So this is not like me trying to upsell you, but like maybe you want to spend that money on a new air conditioner, and no one like you spend it on a Kool RV and a new air conditioner, and you will not regret it. If I put a fan motor in here, you're going to feel like kind of cold air be blown on you from across the room, and it's the best you're going to get. But that's we won't say what brand, but I think we 3 know which one we're talking about. But the what. So y'all obviously are also business owners, not cool, like selling Kool RVs is not the only thing that you do. When you, and a lot of our listeners are, I spend a lot of time like basically talking to other RV inspectors and technicians and helping them grow their business. And so I like to talk to business owners and be like, hey, what have you done that's been successful for y'all? You told me you're 2 years old and you're selling a lot. You're selling a lot for a company that's only 2 years old.
Yeah.
What were some steps you took when you were first getting started to get your product out there in the world?
So I have a background in operations, and I've worked with small startup companies for a number of years. And I started my own business in 2017, and I actually help small businesses get off the ground. So I know all the ins and outs of what it takes to start a company and get it to be successful. So that's my forte. And I was, super resourceful and able to find the contractors that we needed, but we can go into the CAD design if you want to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, and I guess to kind of back up, so I have I have several significant heart conditions that forced me to retire. And so I'm really not involved in the day-to-day operations of the company. That's where Deanna comes in. I came up with the idea and like I said, cardboard duct tape and HVAC ducting, and it worked so well. I looked at Deanna and said, I think I'm onto something here. And we were aware of a competitor that was in the marketplace. And I was actually just going to buy their product, but their product was priced pretty high for
way higher.
What I saw. And so I was actually on their website trying to talk myself into hitting buy, and was reading a review, and there was somebody on there that said, somebody's going to come along and figure out a way to do this for $75. And he went on from there. I won't go on what he said from there. But I looked at Deanna and said, well, heck, if there's a way to figure out how to make this at that price point and make a profit, there may be an opportunity here. And so, when Deanna got everything launched, she went to one of her relatives that did CAD design. And so he basically took the photos of my cardboard doohickey, and I made a couple of just hand sketched drawings for him and said, that's what I would do. And he kind of took it from there and made it into a workable model. And then Deanna, with her background, introduced, I'd never heard of a company called Fiverr before, which is a great place to find contract folks to do specific things that you need done. And so she was able to get the real final designs done, and then 3D. We was a company that does the 3D printing and the injection molding. So when the company started, it was 3D printing, but now everything's done with injection molding.
But any new products that we bring to the market, we start with the 3D printing. So if there are any adjustments that we need to do based on customer feedback, then we make those adjustments before going to the molds, because they're so costly.
Yeah, it's a lot of money up front to buy a single mold, though the parts over time are obviously much less expensive. But one of the challenges we face was how do you price your product? Now, that one person that had left that review helped us come to a spot, but it also provides a little bit of a hesitancy because some folks find it very hard to believe that for $85 you can have that dramatic of an improvement on your air conditioning. And so, a lot of folks will think this is just too good to be true. And we, I know you get folks telling you, hey, you could charge a lot more money for that. And they're probably right, but we don't need to.
That's so you might laugh. What I heard you say was the musician Pitbull says that you should take short steps and have a long vision. And what I heard you say was, hey, I started with cardboard and duct tape, and then we sought experts and we incrementally improved over really a short period of time. So when I met y'all, your company was like only a year old.
Yeah.
And you were already doing pretty well. And now here we are a year later, you're doing more. I know that you're working on more products. You're still doing R&D. How many units roughly have y'all sold?
We're sitting, I think it's right around 30,000.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So roughly 30,000 units in less than 3 years. Like that's
less than 2.
Yeah, that's not a bad, not less than 2, even better. So you've gone from 0 to 60 really, really fast. And it sounds like I don't think that you were in the RV air conditioning business prior.
No.
To this. I don't think you worked for a manufacturer prior to doing any of this, right? Or an RV manufacturer?
No.
No, and it sounds like you just kind of started from scratch and hired sought other experience.
Yeah.
Something
and we were doing everything ourselves to begin with. We were assembling everything. We were packing and shipping everything out of our friend's garage in Montana.
It was a friend. We didn't. Yeah, Deanna didn't even started out of our own garage. We borrowed a friend's because we're full timers. And then my son flew out and helped, and friends came out. And with me with my heart condition, I just can't do. I don't know from one day to the next. And so, you know, if I were in great shape, I would have been running things, and Deanna would have been growing her company, and I would have been growing this one. But that just wasn't an option. And so, the real option was finding other people that could do the work that Deanna can oversee, and make sure that they're doing their roles. And one of the things that we're really proud about with the company is uh, we had an initial company that was doing some manufacturing and then fulfilling through a different fulfillment center, and it was a disaster. And so, Deanna was saying, we've got to come up with something better. And I was up late one night dinking around on Google and stumbled across a company based out of Tucson that called the Beacon Group. And they had been started 70 years ago by a couple of moms with disabled kids who they wanted their kids to be able to work. They wanted to find something productive they could do to give them meaning as their children transitioned into adults. And so they went around to small businesses trying to find any and everything that their kids might be able to do to have a job and have that sense of purpose. That company now, 70 years later, employs over 2,200 disabled people here in the state of Arizona. And so, as soon as I saw that and recognizing my own disabilities, I said, Deanna, we've got to find a way to partner with these folks. And so they assemble our products for us exclusively. They assemble them, they package them, they fulfill them, they handle all of that for Deanna and her team, so that they've got their purpose. We're supporting a community that's near and dear to our heart.
Uh-oh.
And are we doing okay there?
Oh, we're back.
Okay, and it means a lot for us to be able to do business with them. They do fantastic work, and sorry, hon, I'm jumping in on your stuff here.
Oh, no, it's fine. They're so wonderful. We've been so thrilled with them. And we have a team of about, 12 people?
12. It can get up to about 20, I think, during peak season is what they said.
Yeah. And they are growing, but we are also looking at finding another similar company that works with the disabled, maybe in the South or Midwest, so we can scale as well.
Right. That's a blessing that y'all are able to find that. And something I have found is that sometimes it seems like the parts come together. Yeah, you just naturally, like, things will happen in an order. Like I heard you say, well, I have this heart condition, and then I really wanted to work with the community, and then we found this place. And it seems, as just like a business owner, the less that I try to force a thing to happen, the more organically that it will happen.
Absolutely.
And it's so counterintuitive. Like, we've just started to do some part-time hires on our side just to get me out of this is my only day of the week that I am not in the field actually turning wrenches. And the problem with that is that then we don't get to have, like, I know y'all met our marketing team, right? And it's like, I couldn't do that before because I had to be in the field. And it's like, well, now we can have somebody that helps me with marketing so that we can be a better partner and be more successful, right? And my wife, Elizabeth, she is now working in the business full time, so she can kind of go do those things. And it seems counterintuitive, but the stress is, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to spend this money, and I don't know if I have this money. But then you actually do it. You actually work with the other company. You actually take the leap of faith. And it seems like more times than not, you win when you take that leap of faith. It sounds like that's what happened for you.
Yeah.
Well, Deanna's...
And even, because being full-time RVers, you just meet so many wonderful people along the way. And I was working at, I think it was the FMCA rally that was last year in Tucson, and this gal came up and we started talking to her, and she's an RV tech and was looking for something else to do on the side, and we were looking to hire someone to help out with customer support and tech support, and she was so perfect and such a great fit, and she's been with us since then. And then another gal who does our customer support, Brianna, she is a daughter of one of the guys on our team through Beacon. So, she's helping out with customer support, and we're still looking at hiring more people this year. So, and we just, we're waiting to meet people as we're traveling, because we really want to focus on, our team understanding what it takes to be an RVer, and understanding what our customers are going through when their air conditioner's not working. So yeah, we've met some amazing people along the way.
Well, and our social media person
And our
is
social
a
media
friend of
person,
Deanna's, that we met the
Yep.
two of them
Also full-time RVers
on the road.
Yep.
And yeah,
You don't really know, and that's, you don't really know when you start to travel the country. One thing that I became aware of as a full-time RVer as you travel to the country is how different the country is culturally, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't really know it, but then you go to other areas of the country, and I'm not making a political statement, but like, for example, some areas of the country are still very COVID sensitive. Others are not. Others couldn't care less. And in other places, there's the plexiglass is still up. The 6 feet stickers are still up.
Yeah.
And you can't, it's wild the way that as you move through these parts of the countries, you're going to collect a perspective that you never thought of before,
Yep.
right? We're talking about Florida and Arizona, and why, like, air conditioners here are a matter of life and death, right? It's literally an emergency service, the same way that it would be in a residential house or a commercial setting. But I heard you say, "Oh, well, Hawaii probably isn't the same." The Hawaiians are chilling out, man. They've got the breeze off the ocean. They're probably cool. It's not as big a deal for you as I've moved through the country doing inspections. Some parts of the country are high trust environments, and other parts of the country are low trust environments.
Yeah.
And when I go into a low trust environment, it's like, well, yeah, RV inspections, because we hate the dealerships. They're scam artists. High trust environments, it's, oh, well, the guy at the dealership is my high school algebra teacher's son, and I know him personally. And then you don't know, though, from that environment who you're going to meet or how you need to adjust your market to try and meet that person on the other side. There's so much to unpack there, and if you've ever tried to start a business, you know what that's like. We were talking this morning about RV inspections. In Texas, I can say, well, 100 miles is a good service area. In Florida, the whole state is 100 miles across. So, and you have to drive through a swamp to get from one coast to the other, right? So it's not realistic for someone to have a service area that includes 60 square miles of swamp, right? But in Texas, it's all flatland, right? I can drive to Waco or San Antonio or Houston, even Dallas. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work everywhere. One thing I wanted to touch on, I heard you say you liked to benefit members of the community. Do y'all have like benefits or discounts, or do you work with other members of the community?
Oh, okay. A while back, I spent a brief stint volunteering at my local police department, and COVID shut that down. But I, as a part of that, became a member of the Colorado Fallen Hero Foundation, and we deploy when a first responder is lost in the line of duty. And we have a strong belief in supporting our first responders and our both active and retired military. And so one of the things when we formed the company that we talked about was that we needed to have a discount to show our support openly and actively. And so we have a discount that we give through GovX ID as part of our checkout process to support those folks, because they are near and dear to our hearts.
That's beautiful. It's also smart that you use GovX. I hate to say it, but some people will say they will represent themselves when they are not. And we have chosen to take. We do the same thing. We offer a modest discount, because I was in law enforcement in my first career. We offer a modest discount for first responders. But we had somebody the other day that was like, "Oh yeah, my wife was in the Marine Corps," and you're like, "I'm going to take you at your word," but
right.
I don't know.
Right.
My spider sense is tingling. Maybe that's because I grew up in a low trust environment. But I think it is important. And honestly, the other, for us, anytime that a government agency like law enforcement or something, because they have their command vans and whatever else that are built with RV parts, we do kind of the same thing, where if somebody calls us out and says, "Hey, my command van air conditioner isn't working," we can't work for free, but we'll do what we can to help, them out, because it is so important. And that job, speaking with experience, that job sucks. It sucks. I mean, I loved it, but I also a lot of times hated every minute of it. So, thank y'all for doing what you're doing. What are next steps for the Kool RV team?
Well, we have more products in the hopper. That well, do you want to talk about the one that is going to improve AC?
The which?
Yeah.
We are working on a product that will actually take the and again, this all comes back to me. I need to stay cool and as cool as I can, and I like it to be efficient. And so we're working on a product that actually goes into your ducting to help improve the airflow and act as a fix for scenarios where air is going past certain areas or it's going in. I've heard of. We have a buddy who his AC, they didn't take the styrofoam that was blocking the ducting out, so his air couldn't, and they told him not to open his dump valve, and so he was literally just blowing air around in his plenum because he never punched the styrofoam out. One day we were talking, he asked if I could come over, and I was like, hey, let's pull this down, take a quick peek, and there was no way for the air to even get into his ducting. Getting in our case, our AC connected to our ducting was step one. And then now looking at, okay, well, how can we improve the overall airflow and efficiency even further? That's our step two. So we've been doing some experimenting there. Deanna and the team are going to have to come up with a big chunk of cash because there's some equipment that we'll have to pay for and put into the Beacon Group. It'll be the most expensive fix it for myself job that I've ever done. But if they can scale that, it would be a great add-on. And then there are some other RV parts that are RV fixes, I should say, that we're looking at. Some are geared toward the end consumer. There are some that are geared toward RV techs. Just some things as I've tried to keep up with regular maintenance on our rig and thought, well, if I had something that did this or that didn't do that, this could be a significant improvement for folks out there and make their life easier. But then, Deanna and her team have to have the time and resources to be able to bring those to market. And then there is a new company that will be getting launched later this year. That's actually, and it's pseudo RV related in that I have a massive snoring problem, and I have come up with a design that, at least for me, has cured that. And I don't have to wear anything at night. I don't have to do anything. But poor Deanna was trying to find somewhere in the RV she could hide to get away from my snoring, and she doesn't have to do that anymore. And so
no more earplugs.
Yeah, and so we'll roll something out there. Should be somewhere in mid-October. Our patent attorney's working on that patent application as we speak.
That is the legal side. Is the that's the hang up. So I don't know if y'all know, we are launching an RV inspector training program, like an add-on. So you go become an inspector, and then we will teach you, like an incubator, how to run a business and write better reports and streamline what you're doing. So we're starting that business this year. We have our first class scheduled at the end of the year. And we did this like big reveal announcement. And we said, hey, we did this Q&A. We had all these people sign up. And we said, all right, yeah, this week we should be able to start taking tickets and we'll sell seats. And this is when we're going to do it. And we're so stoked for it. Getting the paralegals to write the documents and agree on what the final draft is and make sure that it's enforceable in all 50 states has taken way longer than I had ever envisioned it could possibly take. So that was like a month ago, and we're still in the holding pattern. People are like, please open up, start teaching. So I don't have any patents, thank the Lord. I just have contracts that say this is not a guarantee of success. We're just going to teach you stuff.
Well, it's the same when we started our business. We were hoping to launch in March or April, and because of all the legal things that we were waiting on, we weren't able to launch until June.
Yeah.
So,
well, and kind of backing up on the start for folks, the first thing I would tell folks is really clearly understand what you're trying to, what you want the company to do. So, for example, there were three things when I did my cardboard fix. there were three things that we had to accomplish. One, it had to be super easy to install. Two, it had to be pretty obvious what it did just by looking at it. And three, it had to frankly be at least 50% lower than the price of our competitor out there. And if we could not get it at 50% or lower to the end consumer, then it in my opinion, wouldn't have been worth Deanna and everybody's time getting that out there. And so we started with that. And then there are some important pieces for people to recognize, because there's service industries and service work that can go on out there where anything you can do to protect yourself in terms of content is great. But the fact is that people can tweak a few things here and there and potentially try and get in on that. But from a patent perspective, it's very important for folks to recognize, if they want to go down that road, a couple things. One, you do not have to have a full patent to have patent protections. You can get a provisional patent. What did that cost? Like $1,000, $1,200, something like that.
Yeah, legal Zoom.
And so that gives you 12 months of protection while you perfect your product, and then you can use the profits from that product to pay the 20 or 30,000, whatever it's costing for the full patent to get that done. But you've at least got your proof of concept time there to do it. But another important piece to that is, if you plan on looking at something that's patentable, you can't sell it, you can't disclose it, you can't put it out on the internet. It needs to be your private knowledge before, and you have to get those patent protections before you take that live. Because once it becomes public knowledge, it is not patentable. So very important for people to understand that. And then, this business was literally started by two full-time RVers, really one full-time RVer on the road with friends and family, but leveraging current technologies. Deanna, I'd never heard of Fiverr before, but Deanna knew all about that and was able to bring in people to handle that. There are plenty of RVers out there that they're looking for contract jobs where they can have a set task that they're doing for you over the course of a month or a year, and they get paid the amount that they're doing in that regard. Everything started when I was trying to get something beyond cardboard to put up in our air conditioners. We found a commercial 3D print shop that was able to print them. And the parts weren't necessarily cheap, but they were a lot cheaper than having to buy a 3D printer or, heaven forbid, trying to invest in a mold. So lots of information out there for people, lots of resources available. You started the whole company with what, $9,000 was what was needed?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So you can do a lot with a little if you just get resourceful.
Exactly.
Yeah, the early days are those are the scrappy days, right? And so like we were talking about, like you said, like $9,000. Well, that's about what it costs to go to RV tech school and buy your tools, and a little more than that. And then you need to have like a little runway if you're depending on that. But I think there's so many people that maybe they have an idea or they want to start a business and they have the skill or they need to develop it. And it's like, well, just start small. Yeah. Take us one step today that gets you closer to where you want to be tomorrow. In 2021, when we were first starting the inspection business, I would do one inspection a month. And I was like, well, I'm just grateful to have this. I'm just so grateful to have one single inspection this month. Yep. And now we do 20 a month sometimes, and wow. I need to hire someone to come out and help me with this. But I think people get frustrated or they get intimidated when they're first starting, because coming up with that 9,000 is a real challenge for some people.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, well, if it takes you 5 years to save it up so you can have that, cool. Where will you be in 5 years if you don't do that? Exactly. Is the question I always ask people. And people looking at me, right? Again, a couple of years ago I had barely any inspections at all, and now I probably do more inspections than my 2 or 3 competitors put together. But it's like, it wasn't that way. Like, if I'd given up in 21 or 22, I would have been out there telling everybody that this is the dumbest idea in the world and it didn't work, right? Like, if y'all had not summoned $9,000 and found a Fiverr and somebody with a 3D printer, this would have never happened for y'all. And now you have how many employees, and you've got new ideas. You're inventing sleeping machines for the RV. So you're like a mad scientist now, just 2 years later, inventing stuff.
Well, I think fear is what holds people back the most, in fear of the unknown, what's going to come up, what's going to happen. I mean, and that's fortunate with Deanna's background, where the things that she brought to the table for my ideas. And it's fantastic because basically I come up with ideas now and for problems that I have. And then I see if they work, and if they work, I say, hey, Deanna, what do you think? And she's got her whole team set up from CAD design to manufacturing, the customer service to social media and everything, so that she can just take an idea I have and run with it and see where it goes.
Yeah, and you don't know until you take that first step, and then you just take those baby steps, like you were saying. But if the first idea doesn't work, then try the second one, try the third one. Just keep on moving forward.
And if you make a mistake, don't keep trying to make the mistake work.
Yeah.
Right.
Nope.
Recognize it's a mistake. Cut your losses on that. Move on to the next thing. Right. With that manufacturer, the first one the company started out with, that was a disaster. But Deanna, working with the fulfillment center and some others, and her logistics background, was able to spin that all the way around. From where I sit, things just seem to hum along now.
Yeah, well-oiled machine.
It's the baby steps and taking the leap. And we had this conversation today about our market, because long story, we're trying this new software to help manage our social media presence. Mm-hmm. And I was like, they're like, oh, maybe we could do some tests and stuff. I'm like, no, just try it. And if we post the wrong video or it goes at the wrong, we'll just delete it. It's fine. Right. We'll figure it out tomorrow. You can't be cavalier about every single thing, because sometimes it is important. But I think we're getting ready to move to Illinois. Last year we went to Illinois, and things were fine, but they're not as great as they are in Texas. And so now we're sitting here like, well, should we really go? Should we just stay here and deal with the summer because things are going well? And it's like, let's go. Let's see what happens. If it works out, that's awesome. If it doesn't work out, we'll come back. We'll pick up where we left off. But I think you're right that the fear of the attempt is where most people, and I heard somebody who was a military leader who said it. He said, things are going to work out or you're going to die. And if they don't work out, then it won't be your problem anymore. So
that's very true.
You may as well go for it. But all right, guys, where if somebody is so interested in acquiring a Kool RV, other than our affiliate link, where should people go to source one?
Yep, they can check out KoolRV.com with K. We are on Facebook, Kool RV Inc., and Instagram, Kool RV Inc. with K.
Right on it. And we will put a link in the description to get yours. We'll also, I think we have a video coming out every month about the Kool RV, so there'll be more opportunities to get it. But Don and Deanna, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.